This lesson will focus on New Year's resolutions as our topic. The grammar point we're going to focus on today will be gerunds and to infinitives. Now, these are very similar and can be tricky because they are used with many different words, but with a little practice, we should be fine. Here we have two very similar sentences. With our to infinitive, it's hard to be the only girl. And our gerund, it's hard being the only girl. These sentences are very similar, but we're going to look at the reasons they can be different in the next slides. You may have heard these two sentences or similar sounding sentences before, and they're very similar in meaning with only a few differences. I like to play sports versus I like playing sports. So the to version, the first sentence, emphasizes the future and the fact of what it's indicating. I like playing sports emphasizes the habit and the actual action of playing sports. So they're very similar, except one emphasizes the future and one emphasizes the habit. We're going to start with our to infinitives and their basic structure. So we form these by using a subject, a verb, to, and the basic verb form. So that's actually called the infinitive. He decided to study abroad. So to study abroad. The word to has many uses in English, and we're only going to use it in a certain way this lesson. So here, to infinitives are often used to describe someone's thoughts leading up to an action, or something taking place in the future. It emphasizes the action of doing it, and it adds more human detail. And some common tenses we use are the simple, a perfect, continuous. But these happen only before the to, because after the to, it must be the infinitive, the basic verb form. In order to learn to infinitives, we need to have a list of words that can only use the to infinitive. So let's look at these few words below and how to use them with to. I can't afford to go to that concert. I asked him to help me move. I've decided to quit my job. You deserve to have a day off. He expects me to know what he's thinking. I hope to be able to visit you next summer. So take note that ask and expect can take an indirect object. They can be split by an object. So asked him to or asked to can both be used. Same with expects me to and expects to. Just to make sure we understand how many forms we can use to infinitives in, here are 5 more words. I didn't mean to make you sad. She offered to help me with my report. I'm planning to start my own business next year. He's pretending to listen, but he's playing video games. I want to go traveling again. So the last sentence here, I want to go traveling again, you may see want to in many sentences, and this can take an indirect object. So you can say, I want him to travel with me, but want to is the only one on this list that can take an indirect object. And now moving on to gerunds. So we form these with a subject, a verb, an ing verb, and a clause, usually to describe what you're doing with the gerund. She loves swimming in the ocean. So the reason we use gerunds is often because we want to describe a decision made in the past or a habit or a state. And some common signal words we use with our gerunds are used to, have to, and should. And let's look at some examples to see how those look. And here are some examples of words that can only be used with gerunds instead of the to infinitive. You should avoid eating too much sugar. You should consider exercising more. I generally dislike making small talk. I really enjoyed learning Spanish. And here are 4 more examples of gerund-only words. I have to finish cleaning before we go. I'm going to keep studying Swedish. I really miss going to concerts. Let's practice speaking French. So we looked at examples with 2 infinitives and words that can only use 2 infinitives. And we've looked at examples with gerunds, which can only be used with gerunds, these words. Now, some words can be used with gerunds and 2 infinitives, and they can have very similar meanings, with very small differences between them. I like waking up early. Emphasis is on the habit, so we use a gerund in this case when we want to emphasize a habit. I like to wake up early emphasizes the action, so I like to do this. I like to wake up early. I'm going to start jogging every morning. Again, the emphasis is on the habit. I'm going to start to jog every morning. Now this is an emphasis on the future, so it hasn't happened yet, but it will soon. Now here are a few more, and remember that sometimes a gerund can emphasize a state as well as a habit. Do you want to continue working? Here the emphasis is on the state of working. So you're already working. Do you want to continue working? Do you want to continue to work? This question is emphasizing the future. So something you might do in the future. Do you want to continue to work? Versus something that was happening already. Do you want to continue working? The state. Let's try surfing today. Again, here the emphasis is on the state. So surfing is not a habit yet, but it would be a state if we try it today. Let's try to surf today. And the emphasis here is on the future, similar to continue, but here try to can also mean attempting to do something for the first time. So let's try to surf today can mean let's go surfing today for the first time, or let's try surfing, let's try to do this for the first time. And maybe we'll be good and maybe we won't. On the last 2 slides, we talked about gerunds and 2 infinitives having similar meanings. But the next 2 slides, we'll take a look at gerund and 2 infinitives with the same word, but which have different meanings. So the first one, I hate disagreeing with you. This sentence means you hate disagreeing with the person in general. So this is describing a state. I hate to disagree with you, on the other hand, means right now. So you are saying something and I disagree, but I don't like it. I hate to disagree with you. I stopped going to lessons. So this means I don't go to lessons anymore. Maybe I was taking piano lessons, but I stopped going. I stopped to go to my lesson, on the other hand, means I stopped one thing and I went to my lesson. So I stopped doing the thing I was doing and I went to my lesson. This is very different from I stopped going to lessons, which means you don't go at all anymore. And finally, these last 4 sentences. I forget locking the door. The meaning here with the gerund is that you don't remember doing the action. So you did lock the door, but you don't remember the action at all. I forget to lock the door all the time. So this sentence means I did not complete the action. So I was supposed to lock the door, but I forgot to. So I forget to lock the door all the time is something that you are in the habit of doing, but it means that you didn't complete the action. And I forget locking the door is basically that you did the action, but you forget that you did the action. I remember calling you last night. So this means right now I remember the past action. So I did perform the past action and I remember doing that now. I remembered to call you last night. So this is a different meaning because at that time in the past, I did complete the action. I remembered to call you last night. So the remembering happens in the past. In the first sentence, I remember calling, it happens right now. And let's practice these. So our practice sentences today are going to be either 2 infinitives or gerunds. So I'd like you to choose based on the words surrounding the blanks. And in the brackets, we have drive, cook, turn off, go, and walk with a future emphasis. So let's change these into two infinitives or gerunds. Make sure you look at the word before the blank to give you a hint. Okay, so the answers for these questions are as follows. My friend offered to drive us to the airport. So here, offer is always used with the to infinitive. Remember that from our sentences before. I really enjoy cooking these days. So we use cooking here, the gerund, because enjoy is always a word that follows with a gerund and not a to infinitive. I think I forgot to turn off the oven. So in this case, it's something that you forgot to do and you're remembering that you forgot it now. I'm going to start going to the gym more often. So this is something that reminds you of a habit. So we use going. I think we should try to walk to the waterfront. Either one's fine. Okay, so our practice conversation for this lesson will be talking about New Year's resolutions. Now, imagine you're talking to your friend. It's a few days after New Year's, and you're discussing what you have planned for the year ahead. So take a look in the brackets. We have exercise, learn, go, take, and finish. And before the blanks, we have start, try, stopped, consider, and hope. So let's choose either a to infinitive or a gerund for each of these blanks. And remember, sometimes more than one can be true. All right, so let's take a look at some answers here. Yeah, I really need to start exercising more often. So here the word was start, and normally we'll use a gerund after start because right now in a New Year's resolution, you're talking about a habit that you want to begin. Same, and I want to try learning Spanish again. So here is another habit that you want to start doing again. You want to try learning Spanish again, and the emphasis is on the habit, so we use a gerund. I tried once before, but I stopped to go back to school. So in this case, this person was learning Spanish, and they were doing well, but then they stopped taking lessons and they went back to school instead. So I stopped to go back to school. You should definitely consider taking another course. So in this case, consider always uses a gerund, so that's why we have taking. I really hope to finish this time. And here again, because we use the word hope, we have to use the to in infinitive. So let's read this through. Hey, Happy New Year. Any resolutions yet? Yeah, I really need to start exercising more often. Same. And I want to try learning Spanish again. I tried once before, but I stopped to go back to school. Well, you should definitely consider taking another course. I really hope to finish this time. Excellent work here with our to infinitives and gerunds, and I know they're a little similar and difficult to tell the difference between, but with a little practice and knowing the words, you'll be a pro in no time. Thanks, and see you in the next lesson.